Shared services is much more than just about consolidation to gain efficiency and effectiveness. It's also predominantly about running a business. Think about the people and think about the processes and the systems that it incorporates. I can tell you right from day one that if you and I were to go into a shared services center or even start up a shared services, you and I could sit together and within a matter of 2 weeks to 4 weeks, we could have the ideal system designed for your company. We could put the ideal processes in place. There is not a single thing, particularly if you look across the complex structures across the whole of Europe, there's not a single question that has not already been answered when it comes to setting up a shared services center. So the principles are all very straightforward and simple enough. Nothing to be gained here that could not be done over 2 to 4 weeks. The real problem with shared services is people. It's the people that are no longer required because you require less people to run your shared services. And it is the changes in behavior and attitudes that comes from delivering shared services at a cost, quality and timeliness that's more competitive compared to alternatives. In other words, running a business. Running a business is not really a part of your mindset when you're sitting there in accounts payable and processing transactions. You don't think of it, we're here because we're an important part of the company, and indeed you are, or were. Today, however, we're thinking about everything to think about running a business. And that has a different attitude to it. And the primary attitude is making sure you keep your customers. Businesses tend not to be very useful without customers. They tend not to be very sustainable. The same thing applies to shared services. If we look at the failures over the last few years, and there have been many, the failures have occurred because shared services has failed to treat the people it services as its customers. So how do you set up true client relationships? Well, first of all, deliver products that people need and value and are willing to pay for at a cost and quality that's competitive with alternatives. Okay? So how do you define your products? Where's your product manager? I'm not suggesting you suddenly create a massive infrastructure to parallel your organization, but somebody somewhere has to understand what people need, has to be able to understand and define that need in terms of the words that the customer values, and then has to decide how to deliver those services. Okay? That's all part of the shared services story. Has to be done cost effectively, of course. But it's not enough. People need to understand what it is they're getting. I can tell you, I've gone into situations where I've gone with some head of shared services who's gone to a customer and said, well, now you're going to buy this particular service from us, and we are going to sell that to you as your supplier. This is what it's going to cost you. Guess what the other person said? Well, of course, it would say it's too expensive, but actually it didn't cost you anything before. Well, you need your head testing, don't you, as a business person, to think that something you got before was for free and now you're having to pay for it. The reality is, even before you start your shared service center, might be a good idea to find out what it actually costs today to deliver those same services. So you can then go back and say, now it's going to cost you $110, that particular service in the old days when you didn't even see what it cost, because it was hidden somewhere, was costing $150. So today, whether you accept that or not, you are getting the service at a lower cost than you got it before. And by the way, the quality is just as good because we actually care about whether you want to have that particular service or not. And by the way, if you don't need that particular service, we're not going to provide it. It's not only about delivering service that people need and value, but not delivering those that people don't want is an important part of the whole sequence. Wonderful examples of this are there, particularly in things like HR shared services, where HR knows best. And we've always wanted training in that particular area. Therefore, we'll put that training right across the whole company. Does the whole company need it? Does it value it? Are the business people prepared to pay? We don't care because we know what's best in HR. Well, that is no longer acceptable within a shared services context. There is another side to it, of course, and it isn't just about giving the customer what he wants. It's also about making sure that you can deliver that at a cost and quality that's competitive. So it often means not doing some things. You know, when you ring up Dell, and remember Dell's business model is we'll give you these very basic things and we'll give it to you at the best possible price, right? What happens if you want another printer other than the one that's in the Dell catalog? You ring up Dell and you say, Dell, very nice, I love those printers in your catalog, but what I really want is a Squiggly J Zima, where they say, well, I'm sorry, but we don't do Squiggly Zimas. I'm sorry, we're not prepared to sell you that. Please go somewhere else, okay? And why? It's because it keeps Dell's business model intact. So do not do stuff in your shared services centers that completely disfigure that center, cause you to take on additional work that you are not fit to do or no longer wish to do because it disrupts your business model, and have your customer buy it from somewhere else if they're absolutely willing to pay the price. Or alternative to say, if you want that service from me, I can provide it for you, but it's going to cost you 10 times more than the normal day-to-day stuff that you want to buy. So these are just basic business principles, aren't they? So maintaining that is absolutely key in the kind of things you deliver and the kind of things you don't deliver. That means establishing relationships with your clients. Where exactly is your client relationship manager here? Okay? Now, I'm not suggesting a fleet of client relationship managers, but somebody somewhere in that unit that you have has to take responsibility for managing relationship with a particular client or a group of clients. That's also part of building an effective shared services center.